Hey guys, welcome back to Blind Strike Exotics. I'm John, and I'm going to start the video by saying please like and subscribe to the channel. It looks like almost like 95% of the people that view my videos aren't subscribed to the channel, and that helps me a lot. As I'm growing the channel to actually have people subscribe, so it helps show my videos to you guys first when you log into YouTube. So please hit subscribe. But today I actually want to go over just a basic ball python housing setup. I've had a couple customers over the past couple weeks email me asking me how do I set them up. I had a feeding problem myself with the one that I just purchased, a little hatchling, and a client was having trouble feeding an adult female that was sold to her probably 2 months ago. And both of those issues were resolved by just making sure that the housing was set up properly for that individual snake. Ball pythons are known to be picky eaters. They can go off food for many different reasons. It could be the mystical 1,000-gram wall. It could be because of their heat. It could be because of humidity. It could be just because they don't feel like it. A lot of the times, though, it's just due to their enclosure and whether or not they feel comfortable in it. So I'm going to break it down. We're going to look at a couple of hatchlings and the way I set up their tubs, and then a couple of the adults I have and how I set it up depending on how big the actual snakes are. All of my ball pythons are in rack systems right now. You know, the grow outs are up here, and these are all the adult female tubs, and the little hatchlings are down here at the bottom. So I have the 4x2s that my boa and my blue tongue skink are in, and I can show you that because if you're buying the ball python more as a pet and you want to show it off, you're probably going to end up going with the 4x2. But if you're going to have a collection, you're most likely putting them in racks. But the care is going to be the same no matter what. It's just going to look a little bit different aesthetically. So let's dive right in right now. Now, as a general rule of thumb with ball pythons, you're looking to have their hot spot be about 90 degrees, 85 to 90 degrees, and you're going to want the cool side of their enclosure to be about 80 degrees. Humidity is going to be around 60%. They do not need any sort of lighting. They do not need UVB lighting. Lighting is more, you really want to have a day-night cycle. You don't want them to be like in a cave where there's literally no light ever. I have natural light coming in the windows from the other side. If they're in a translucent tub, they can see that. If they're in these big racks here, there are air holes like kind of up through here, and the light does get in there for them. But so 90 degrees, 85 to 90 on the hot side, 80 on the cool side, 60% humidity, and whether or not they're in a tub or if you have them in a big enclosure or aquarium, you want to try to keep the same temperatures because that'll get reduce any stress and help them eating and keep them healthy. Now, you can have an enclosure that's too big for a ball python. They do not like huge open spaces. They need to have room to move around. These tubs here, which are the 70 series, are perfect for adult ball pythons. They fit in there perfectly. They can stretch out when they need to. And every female that I have in there is doing fantastic. They're thriving in there. But you can have something too big. You don't want to throw a hatchling baby into a 100-gallon aquarium. I don't want to put hatchlings in these 70 series back here. They're just way too big. They're never going to feel comfortable in there. So you need to make sure that you're keeping them in an appropriately sized terrarium or tub. The hatchlings, these are, I think 8 quarts. So I don't know what the equivalent to that would be in an aquarium, but basically that's probably the smallest you're going to go is like a 10-gallon aquarium if you're going that route. I don't recommend using aquariums, glass aquariums, because they do not keep heat or humidity in very well. They're okay for some other species that are a little more temperate, but it's very hard to keep it up to 90 degrees in those in those aquariums. And on top of that, everything is clear as day. So if you do get a skittish ball python and it can see everything around it at all times, it's probably going to scare it. It's not the rule. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. Not every ball python is extremely skittish, but out of all the ones I have here, I'd probably see 20-25% of them are kind of weary of their surroundings, and if I weren't to have them in nice, comfortable spaces, they probably would go off food for me. All right, so these are the hatchling tubs. As you can see, they are semi-clear, frosted plastic, if you will. I buy the Reptile Basics VE6 racks for my hatchlings because you can also use the bigger size tubs in them too. So you can put your grow outs in them or use them for hatchlings. But they don't give you the option to choose the gray tubs, which I prefer because it keeps the whole tub dark. So with hatchlings, they're usually a little more picky than the older snakes. But this is my basic setup for hatchlings, and this is my little pastel Enchi freeway female who loves to come out and play. She's always ready to go. Hi, baby. All right, so this is the basic tub setup here. I have unprinted paper that I bought in bulk from Amazon, which is what I use as the substrate. It's easy to clean. It's easy to see when they pee, poop. Makes it pretty simple, especially because most of the hatchlings aren't gonna be in there forever. You keep the water bowl at the front so it's away from the heat. There's obviously heat tape running through the back of the tub. And then I have these tiny little homemade hides that I made. They're just little like deli takeout containers you buy from Amazon, and I take a soldering iron and kind of just cut out a little hole there. The key with ball pythons is that you want them to be snug in their hides. And usually, the 20 plus hatchlings I went through this year that I bred and sold, they were all fine with this basic setup. They started feeding and fed with no issues whatsoever after that. But as you can see, if I can get her back in here. Go ahead. That's right where I want you to go. They fit in there pretty snug. And hopefully she gets in there. Let me tickle her a little bit. Go ahead. Get in there, baby. No. Go ahead. Get in there. Get in there. All right. They're pretty snug in there. Let me pick it up and I'll show you. There's not a ton of space in there. And that's how they like it. They live in rodent dens and burrows and termite mounds in Africa, so they're used to tight, cramped spaces. And when they're feeling vulnerable, that's where they want to be, in those tight little spaces. So, if you're in a rack system with your snakes, the tub itself is kind of like one big hide, and you put a little tiny hide in the back end on the hot side. And that should be all you have to do if you're in a tub system. Now, I don't know if you watched my last video. I think it was the reptile room tour. And I showed you my little pastel phantom leopard highway male. And he was giving me a hard time eating. So I'm going to show you him next. He's right next door to the freeway here. What I had to do with him is basically fill up the entire tub with Reptichip. He could fit up here if he wanted to, and there's enough space. The water bowl is right here in the middle, and I buried his hide in the back. He was just not eating for me. He wasn't eating live. He wasn't eating frozen. Just refused meals for the first 2 or 3 weeks I had him. And, I was trying to kind of spitball, what can I do to get him to eat? I tried putting him in just like a small Sterilite container with nothing else in there except for the rat. He didn't eat it then. And then I decided, maybe the tub's too big for him. Maybe he's just not comfortable. So I took the Reptichip, I filled this up. And with these semi-clear tubs, it kind of makes it darker too. I mean, it's going to make it very hard for the light to come in the front through there, because you know there's only up where these air holes are is the only spot light can come in. So it darkens it a lot. It also makes the whole entire tub tighter, more secure for him. He has eaten 2 meals out of 2 attempts since then. So that obviously seems to be working for him. So if you're having an issue where your hatchlings aren't eating or going off of food, it might be because they're just not comfortable and they need a tighter space to live in. So if you were going to put an adult ball python in a more traditional enclosure where you can see, and you can, it's just going to be your pet, it's probably going to be a 4x2, which is what this is, 4 feet by 2 feet. That's a perfect size for an adult ball python. You'll be able to see it. These PVC enclosures hold heat and humidity amazing. There are these big heat panels that you buy for them. You can get them fitted with the LED strips in the back, so there's a ton of light in there. I just have mine set on a timer so they shut off every night. But these are perfect. These are perfect size for an adult ball python. I think this is a Reptile Basics. I think Vivarium Electronics makes them, but I buy them from Reptile Basics. I think these 4x2s, I don't know what shipping was, but I think they were maybe $250, $260 each, I think, if I remember correctly. But they're built really well. I don't have any complaints with them so far. One of them arrived with a cracked front door, and they sent a replacement out to me in like 2 days. And there were basically 2 ways that I set up tubs for the grow outs or the adults. I have some adults that are kind of around the 1,400 gram range. Most of them I just put directly in the tub, but some of them require one of the larger hides. So this is my ivory female, potential inchy. This is, I think, like the large hides that are sold. It fits perfectly in there. This probably fits a ball python up to, I don't know, 1,500 grams in it. This is a 70 series tub. As you can see, it kind of fits nicely back there. It gives them another tight space to fit into. Let me pick this up and show you how well she fits in there, since she was just out on top earlier, so I'm glad she went in. But as you can see, she's curled up nice and snug in there. It makes her feel comfortable. That's what I found out works for her. She likes being inside of there. She likes it feeling nice and tight. I have other females that could care less what size the tub is. I have a pastel lesser in here. And she's happy as can be, just chilling out in the back. She does not mind that there's no hide in there. She's probably around the same size as that ivory, maybe a couple 100 grams more. She could use a tub or a hide, but she's okay without one. So you kind of have to figure out, what's right for each snake. Now this baby butter here, she's my super butter, super pastel. She's a big girl. She's probably about 2,500 grams or so. As you can see, she's a full-grown female. I don't know how big she's gonna get. She's probably about 3 or 4 years old. She has been growing nicely for me the last 18 months I had her, but she fits comfortably back there in the back of her tub, which is her hide. She would not fit in a one of those hides that the ivory female had. It would just be way too tight for her. There are the bigger hides like I had in the skink and boa enclosures, but I think they would take up way too much space in here, and it wouldn't give them a whole lot of room to move around. It would cut off, they have all this space to move around, and if you put a huge jumbo hide in the back there, I mean, that space is gone. It's gonna probably end up cutting the tub in half. So you don't want to do that, especially with these bigger girls. And as you can see, I'll show you Princess too, who's the biggest girl in my collection here. She's about 4,500 grams, and looks like she's getting ready to shed. She has her blue, which is good because she's gonna start getting paired up probably in 2 weeks. She's probably almost double the size of baby Butter. She takes up a big portion of that tub, and she's about as big as a ball python will get, and she eats up all of that space. So obviously no hide for her because this tub is her hide, but she fits in there perfectly. She is happy and eats every week without fail. I had a customer email me a couple weeks ago saying she bought an adult female off of me probably back in September, that she was having a hard time getting her to eat. So I said, what do you have her in? What's your setup like? What are your temperatures and all that stuff? And the temperatures were okay. The humidity was okay, but she had her in a 75-gallon aquarium. And I don't remember whether or not she had hides in there or only one hide. But I said, I told her, I said, she's probably just stressed out. She's in a new place. She's in a big aquarium. She was in a rack system before where it's completely dark all the time. So what I would try doing is getting a couple tubs or a couple hides, make sure they fit her well, make sure it's not too big, and it needs to be big enough for her to get into. So she emailed me back later that week, maybe 2 weeks later, and said that worked. That was it. It was just that simple. She went on food literally a couple days after getting that properly fitting hide in there. This is a female that I think she was born in 2016, and she fed religiously for me without an issue. And you go to a new home, you get a new snake, they're stressed out because they moved. The enclosure is going to be a little different than it was where they previously lived, whether it's a hatchling or an adult. So you need to make sure they feel comfortable. And for her, she was one of the ones who needs to have a hide. She wants a hide. She wants to feel safe. She wants to retreat somewhere. If she gets scared by something, she wants to be able to hide and feel like nothing can find her. And that was it. That fixed the problem for that snake. They're not all going to be like that. I have some snakes in here that the second that you pull open the tub, they are either ready to bite you or eat. They could care less. Whether or not there's a hide or anything in there, they just want food. But there's others that you open them up and they curl up in a ball, they do the traditional ball python thing, or they go run into their hide. They don't want anything to do with you. And those snakes, I need to sometimes leave the frozen rat in there, and then disappear for 30 minutes and make sure they ate it, because they won't eat it right off the tongs. Other ones, I literally take the tong. I pull, like this guy up here, Big Puma, my male. I'll pull open the tub, and I literally dangle the rat right there, and it's gone before I even have time to set it in place, because he doesn't care. He is comfortable as it is. He just wants his food. So each snake is different. You need to figure out what your snake likes. They all have their own personality. They all have their own history and experiences. So you need to figure out what works for them. And the other question I had from that same customer was, do you recommend rack systems? Do you recommend PVC enclosures? What do you recommend? And my answer was, that's kind of up to you. If you're keeping a bigger collection, you kind of have to have a rack. There's no way that you could fit those 4x2 enclosures in a house and have more than 3, 4, 5 of those, because they eat up obviously 4 feet of space. You can stack them up vertically, but they're huge. Whereas this is behind me here. This fits 30 tubs in it. It goes all the way up to the ceiling. But width-wise, it's, I don't know, maybe 4 feet wide, maybe 5 feet wide, and it's a lot more effective at keeping your collection nice and comfortable, and not taking up too much space in your house. So it's really up to you. It's up to how many you're going to end up keeping. having enclosures or aquariums isn't feasible unless you're going to have a small amount of snakes. If you're keeping one snake, I would say 100% put it in a PVC enclosure. Dress it up real nice, make it look pretty, make it look a little showpiece, and then you can see your snake crawling around. But if you're going to have 10, 20, 30, you kind of have to go with a rack. Neither option is right or wrong. They both have their benefits. They both have their downsides. The one thing that I miss from having, the rack system is that you can't see the snakes. My boa, she's, nocturnal. I don't see her at all during the day, but I love coming down here at night and she's cruising around everywhere. It's so neat to watch her because, I don't see her during the day. The ball pythons are all in their tubs and I can't see them either, which is actually why I just got the aquarium that I have with my little newts. I just got a bigger aquarium so I can have it out by my desk so that I can watch everybody, the fish in there and the newts swimming all day, because I miss having, the enclosures where I can see my pets and I can see them moving around during the day. So that's my biggest downside to the rack system, is that I can't see the snakes and I can't see them cruising around and I can't enjoy looking at them without having to take them out. But other than that, I prefer racks for pretty much everything else. Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the little overview I had showing you how to set up the tubs or enclosures for your ball pythons. This is my sterling lesser female. She is really cool looking. She's actually one of the females who I got her earlier this year, and she is always ready to go, always ready to eat, never timid, very, very aggressive, but as you can see, she's okay once you pull her out of the tub. But she is a beautiful snake. But so that's it for today. If you guys have any questions about how to set up your tubs, or if you've had any issues with your snakes feeding for you, drop a comment below, let me know, and I'll try to answer you as quick as I can. But if you follow those steps, if you get them in the appropriately sized tub or aquarium, if you provide enough hides and hides of the right size for them, you keep the temperatures right, keep the humidity right, you really shouldn't have any issues. Any issues that I've ever had, from being a beginner to even now, a couple weeks ago when I got this one hatchling, have been because of the tub size and them feeling comfortable in it. So double check all of that stuff, double check that you're doing everything right, and that should probably be the key to any of the issues that you're having. So thanks again for stopping by, and please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.